Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Hey, welcome to The Pint, a pop culture podcast. My name is John, and this week we have a special episode for you. So last weekend on September 21st and 22nd was the 10th annual CT Horrorfest. That's right, Connecticut Horrorfest, and it was the first one to be held at the Connecticut Convention Center. The show was a real success. Everybody had a good time, and very luckily, I was asked by the promoters of the show, Rob and Christine Caprolosi, to be a volunteer this year. And I was also asked to be a moderator for a panel. So there were several panels this year. One of them was the cast of The Lost Boys. That panel was covered by Shawnee Mack, our good buddy. And then our other buddy, Mark, did the cast of the Blair Witch Project panel. And I was asked to talk to the folks behind Starship Troopers, the 1997 Paul Verhoeven film. It was a lot of fun. I also was, I guess, the line handler for Michael Ironside, who plays Rashek in that. And also Dina Meyer and Jake Busey were at the show and were involved in the panel. So during the panel, it was recorded by the folks at CT Horrorfest. And then they let me know that I could use it as an episode of The Pint. So for any of you folks that weren't there, here's a chance for you to listen to it. If you were there, hey, that's really cool. It was great seeing you. I hope you had a good time. So I'm just doing a real quick introduction to this episode so that you know what you're listening to. So this is from Saturday, September 21st at Connecticut Horrorfest, which, by the way, is coming back twice next year, both for 2-day shows. So in early May and in September again. Early May will be held in Stamford, Connecticut, and then in September they're going to be returning to the convention center here in Hartford, Connecticut for their 11th, or I guess 12th. That would make it their 12th show, I guess. But either way, it's going to be a good time. If you've never been to one of those shows, they always are. I do want to point out that this was from a YouTube video, and we were on a stage with mics on my podium and mics at their table. So when we do ask questions of the audience late in the episode, you'll hear some of the stuff is kind of hard to hear. I tried to boost the levels up, so if it doesn't sound super great, but I tried to make it so that you could still hear the audience's questions who did not have microphones on them. Thank you again to Rob and Christine and to Scary Larry Dwyer and everybody that is involved for getting me involved. It was really cool to be able to do that. And thank you very much to the folks from Starship Troopers for getting up on stage and letting me ask some questions and letting some folks ask some questions as well. It was a good time. So, without further ado, this is John Speaks to the folks from Starship Troopers at Connecticut Horrorfest.
I want to go on this side.
Sit down.
I want to go over there.
That's not Jake
This
Busey.
is the way our whole shoot went.
I like to go over here.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Where would you like Jake? You want Jake on this side or you want him in the middle? Where do you think Jake should be?
Don't give them a choice.
All right, so they said start, so I'm going to start. So we're here to talk about Starship Troopers from 1997. I have a couple questions I'm going to ask these guys, and then going to turn it over to the audience to ask some questions. But the first question I kind of had for you two is, were either of you familiar prior to being cast with the novel itself? And if you were familiar with the novel, it's a two-part question. Knowing the kind of differences that were made in the story, were you I guess, a little reprehensive about it, not knowing right off the bat if it was going to change?
Okay, so prior to my reading the script, no, I was not familiar with Heinlein's novel, but I did read it once I was cast. I did realize that Dizzy was, in fact, a male in the book, and I was like, that's it's weird, but okay, I think it actually kind of works because I'm very in touch with my masculine side. So yeah, I thought it worked pretty well.
Was the changing of that character's gender and others as well, was that kind of what based the idea of like the co-ed showers and everything? Was that kind of bought off of that?
I don't know if that was where it came from. I just think that in the future, I think that if you're a soldier, you're a citizen, it just doesn't matter. They kind of took the sex out of it.
Right.
It didn't or the gender out of it. You were a soldier, you were a citizen, and that's kind of all that mattered.
You read the book. Had you already read the script?
Yes.
Did you like the book?
Yeah.
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 Was it a case of you were glad that you were going with the scripted version more so than the story that was in the novel?
I really didn't. I was honestly neither here nor there about it. I was a little, I was just happy to work.
Yeah.
It was my third movie. It was a $100 million Paul Verhoeven movie, and I said, "Sign me up. I'm in." And that was kind of it. I wasn't about to say, Paul, we really should. I wasn't at that place. I was no Michael Ironside to be giving Paul any kind of shit about the script, or Ed Neumeyer for that matter. So I was honestly just very happy to be there and part of the film.
Mr. Ironside, same question. Had you read the book?
Michael. Mr. Ironside is my father.
Michael.
Yes. What?
Did you enjoy the book?
Look, this is really a loaded question for me. My grandfather, Findlay Ironside, was... How many here are real sci-fi freaks? Okay, about a fifth of the audience. There was a group called the First 100. They were all sci-fi guys back in the 40s. And Sci Fi magazine, does anyone know that one? That was originally a club letter that was used in the late 40s. Started actually between the first two world wars, and again in the late 40s, up through the 50s, and then it was syndicated as a magazine in the 50s as Sci-Fi magazine, and there was like all these guys that were a part of it, and they were all writers, and a lot of short stories and sci-fi short stories were club letters that they wrote for each other, because publishing houses and literature houses didn't want sci-fi. They didn't see it as a legitimate literature. Robert Heinlein was one of those guys. My grandfather knew him, along with A.J. Vaught, and Aleister Crowley was one of the 100. And if you know anything about the Beast, that's kind of questionable. And I read Starship Troopers knowing that, not that it's a big deal, maybe it is, he was a super fascist right-wing guy who cross-dressed and liked to write when he was wearing women's clothing. And also believed that if you weren't willing to kill for your country, you shouldn't be allowed to vote, which is pretty dramatic. A very, very, very super right-wing fascist guy. He also wrote a book after Starship Troopers called The Citizen's Handbook about what you need to do to be a true citizen. So without politics aside, and I know it's a very contentious thing this year, he was very, 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 very right of Hitler, and maybe a little bit right of Genghis Khan. So I knew a lot about it. So I'd already done Total Recall with Paul. And when they said they wanted to do Starship Troopers, I said, can I have a meeting to talk to Paul? And are you male or female under that mask? Yes. Oh, good, good. With a voice like that, you could be, with some shots. But, oh, fuck off, I got a cousin. Anyway, that's another story. So I said, let's have a meeting with Paul. So I said to Paul, Paul, you're a war rat. He was raised in Europe right after the Second World War. I know some of the backstories. A game they used to play when they were kids is they'd go in the field and they'd find old 88 shells, Panzer 88 and artillery shells, and put their foot on them and hit them with a hammer and watch them shoot off across the fields and stuff. So that was the idea of entertainment for him. and when he was a kid. I said, so you're doing Starship Troopers. What's your take on this? And he said, you question me? In that heavy Dutch ex-evangelical preacher voice of his, which he was, by the way. And that's another story. But, and I said, yeah, I want to know what I'm getting into. And he said, all right, I am going to make a perfect world, a beautiful world, where everyone's beautiful, everyone's equal, everyone's happy, everyone's good, but it's only good for killing fucking bugs. And I said, I'm in. And he was true to his, he was true. Also, I know about Paul. Paul isn't so much, and I won't speak for him. I speak from my experiences with him. He's not somebody who's political. He wants people to have discourse. So he creates situations, stories, movies, where you have to discuss the subject matter afterwards. Do you know what I mean? He wants you to engage. He wants you to question, you know? Like, when you got Doogie Howser putting his hand on a bug and going, it's in pain, and everyone cheers, you know? It's afraid. Sorry, I wasn't in that scene.
I know you.
Were you in that scene?
I was.
Ah, then you'd remember.
Yeah, that's fine.
I've only seen the film once.
Fine.
But, no, but you understand what I'm saying. Paul, I think, is a true artist. He goes from here, his concept of something, through the medium that he's working in and into the audience's brain with the least amount of distortion, depending on which mask you're wearing. And I think that's what says about a true artist. Most films and stuff like that are, you know how they say it takes a village to raise a child? It takes a village to make a movie. But in a few artist situations, Paul's one of them, I think, where he has absolute control over the whole medium while he's doing it. You know, so, and where's Buse? Where's Busey?
I don't know. I think maybe he's at the bar.
I think they went to go find him.
I'm kidding. Maybe he's.
Sorry, I hope that was an
lunch.
awful long answer, but.
That's a good answer. All right, so to switch from
I got applause.
to switch from a content kind of answer to like a style answer, Starship Troopers 1997. I rewatched it last night. The effects hold up today. They're really incredible. The bugs look great. Everything looks great. But for somebody that was in her third movie, and then somebody who, you know, like you had said earlier, you're 317 movies in. At that point, who knows how many there were.
I'm a total whore.
What was it like? What were the challenges like for you, Dina, acting against, I'm assuming, tennis balls
Him?
or for you first? And
Pulling him as well. Pulling him out of a vermiculite pit.
Oh, yeah.
That was a challenge.
Yeah.
Because he's not a slight man.
Well,
Right? Like pull him out of a
You
pit.
want to go there?
I'm just saying.
You fucking want to go there?
I was just a
Little kids, cover your ears.
girl. I was just a girl, and I'm like having to pull him out. We were in this pit. Do you guys remember when we pull him out without legs? Spoiler alert. Yeah, so that was a challenge. I was just
You guys have your death scenes are right one after another, and your death scenes are epic.
Well, there was no reason for me to go on after he was gone.
Yeah, but you have
because I really had an unrequited love for.
No, look, I won't
For
talk
Roger.
about you shooting me in the face or anything.
But what was it difficult to film a giant sequence like that, final sequence?
Oh,
where
God,
you're in
there's
the
so much in
compound?
that film is so difficult to shoot. We never saw, we had 3 mechanical bugs. We had, I think, 3 mechanicals that were worked by hydraulics and stuff. They could walk them around and stuff. But they were totally useless for using on camera other than in close-ups. We had 1 tanker bug, kind of half of a bug, so that...
It was like the shell.
The shell, so that we could do that whole bug scene.
That
where
Rico was
Bjorn-
riding him.
Yeah. Most of the time we were shooting with cutouts. They would just get a 2-dimensional black cutout in the horizon or something for perspective for the cameras and stuff. They were using, believe it or not, satellite telemetry for the special effects on the film. So they were doing literally from a satellite, getting the telemetry of the actual terrain of that when we were shooting in South Dakota, the fort, where the fort was. That was on native land, by the way. It wasn't government land. They leased that land from a native tribe. And so when we're shooting out, we're literally shooting, acting our asses off, shooting at 2-dimensional cutouts and stuff like that.
And or nothing. And depending on
absolutely nothing.
depending on how close they were on you, and usually when they're in the close up, then there's zero to shoot opposite of. I mean, there's nothing out there. Just look scared or look mean, and they're coming at you very quickly, and there's lots of them, and we're like, okay,
Her third
you
film.
know, and don't shoot each other because you've got fire coming out of your weapon.
I mentioned getting shot. We got confused over our crosses one day because we're all using. Paul wanted very big flames coming out of these futuristic guns.
Yeah.
So they were like basically there were FNs where they were called FNs, but they're an M16 stock and barrel that they cut down, put into a futuristic stock, and then come on in, Buse.
Come on, Jake. Hey,
And,
Jake Busey.
Busey.
And we were using full loads because Paul wanted very big flames to come out of the barrel. Ladies and gentlemen, the late.
The great.
Jake Busey, Ace Levy,
Everyone wants a friend like Ace.
playing the
So
coolest
anyway-
fluorescent green violin ever, and maybe the only fluorescent green violin ever.
So during the vermiculite scene, when I died, Paul had put me in this. He wanted the sun to bounce off the sandy, so he found vermiculite, which reflects light and was very good. But we're in, 105-degree weather
Yeah.
in South Dakota.
Yeah.
And I was in there for 3 hours with a half body on top of me with messed up legs. I got sunstroke, really bad. Every orifice of my body opened up.
Ooh.
I'm in Kevlar. Kevlar, did not leak any water. They just held everything. At the end
Thank
of the
God,
day,
because there were
you could
more
turn
than
our-
one people.
At the end of the day, you could
pit.
turn our suits over and drop the water out of them and stuff. After 6 months, shit was growing in there for real. And
See
I
for
do not
yourself.
remember shooting the scene where I screamed, "Do it, Rico, do it." I don't remember. I passed out. They put me on an IV and took me to the hospital after that scene. I got 2 days off. I didn't get to see her die. But that's what I remember from that sequence was, boy, it's hot. How long is it going to be?
Good night.
You kind of separate when you got heat stroke, and it's like, hey, there's so-and-so, But it was a brutal shoot. It really was.
Indeed.
It
And then
really
I
was.
got heat stroke a couple days before that, or wait, when did you get it? Where?
In the
No,
fort,
it was
in the fort.
on P.
He was on Planet B. Oh, so I got.
No, you got
before
you got it in the Badlands,
No, I got it at
Ticonderoga.
Clendalfo. Yeah.
I thought you had it when it was 104, and we were out in
Children, please don't argue.
Who didn't
in
have
South
heat stroke?
Dakota. Kadoka.
Casper didn't get heat stroke.
Casper Van Dien.
I did not get heat
That
stroke.
jaw doesn't get heat stroke.
A lot of us got heat stroke, and and it was yeah. There's like this
Kadoka
cloudy thing that comes over you like that, like Mike described. Yeah, it's.
When we started
stroke
shooting,
thing.
the temperature was, in the mornings, was somewhere just around 30 degrees, because it was in South Dakota and stuff like that. And by the time it's a 6-month shoot. By the time we finished, it was in the 104s, 105. So you go into your dressing room and break the ice in the water in your toilet in the morning.
Yeah.
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 And by the end of the shoot, you're dying. You've got like 2 inches of water inside your Kevlar suit. And all the equipment, it came out to about 70 pounds, where you get the rifles, the vests on, the helmets, and all that stuff. And
Yeah, the rifles alone. With
yeah, it was. Then you have people having fights and arguments. We took over a whole hotel, and what was the name of the town in South Dakota?
Kadoka, South Dakota.
Kadoka, South Dakota.
Kadoka, South Dakota.
We took over, and there was like there'd be arguments and
Western.
fights, and people falling on chairs and shit at night.
700 people town.
Yeah, we took over this whole town.
So
Poor buggers.
that one thing, Michael, I don't know if you remember this, but we had one of our crew members who, it was so hot, and I think the air conditioner in his room went out. And there was a lot of hard drinkers on this show, and it was the weekend. Well, he apparently had gotten quite inebriated, and he couldn't sleep in his room because it was too hot. So he goes and gets in his car. And the hotel driveway was kind of ambiguous. It was kind of part of the road. It was just, you couldn't really tell what was what. And the reason I mention this is because he gets in his car, he turns on the car and the air conditioner, and so he's sitting there in the car with the air conditioner blasting, and he falls asleep finally. But the problem happened when the cop pulled up and sees a guy in the car with the engine running, and he's only wearing a leather thong.
Wait, what? What?
You don't remember that?
No. Why would I remember that?
He was a set
I
dresser.
never heard about that.
Yeah.
That didn't get out to the girls.
Well, that was
It was
a man
it was
thing.
Stanley. He was a set dresser.
Stanley.
The set dresser, Stanley.
He got busted for impaired driving in a thong.
Hello.
Wait, did he got busted
Wow.
for the thong too, or just the impaired driving?
It just became part of the whole story.
Oh, okay.
It was,
I was like, South Dakota is rough. You can't wear a thong in South
You
Dakota.
can go in a restaurant in Kadoga, South Dakota, and there it is, the thong.
Oh.
It's on the wall with pictures. There's a whole restaurant that we all ate at and stuff that has all our memorabilia in. You know, like
Right.
there's the plate that Jake broke. There's the, there's all this
the
stuff
thong
on
that
the wall.
Stanley
There's
wore
the
when he
thong
got-
that.
What do you
Yeah.
know?
The sad thing is that we have our whole experience on the road. We come back to LA, we're shooting at every stage on the Sony lot, and this poor guy has to, like every week or two, he has to fly back to South Dakota to deal with his court case and his issues in this little town of 750 people. Imagine what the judge and everybody working in that courthouse and that whole law system in South Dakota with 750 people is going to be. It's going to not be real fair to
Your Honor, is this the
Hollywood-
thong he was wearing?
Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor,
One of the
that's
guys
the thong.
that said the B word at the airplane, right?
Oh, no, different guy.
That was a
No,
different guy.
no.
We should move on from the thong story.
Well, what about the guy? Were you there when we couldn't take the plane because somebody on the crew said
Oh.
the B word at the airport and they
Yeah.
Oh.
made us
So-
stay
so
in.
wait,
And that's pre 9/11
Plane.
too.
I had
That was yeah.
Yeah.
let me preface that. I want you
Please,
to
no,
take
please
it.
do.
want you to
No,
take
I
the
don't want
story,
it.
but I
You
just
take
wanna
it.
preface it.
I'm done. I prefaced.
Okay, so Michael can take over too. But so right before the movie started, I bought a brand new Dodge truck, and my girlfriend, I got her a job as a stand-in for Denise, about the same size, and so she drove the truck so we would have transportation. She drove out so after we finished boot camp, and she started the first day a week with the rest of us. She worked more days on the show than I did. So when it came time to go back to LA, the producer said, you can't drive with her back to LA. You have to fly on our chartered plane. And I said, no, I'm not going to just make my girlfriend drive my truck across the country, and I want to be with her. We want to do a road trip. And they said, no, the insurance, or what happens if you crash, and what if you don't make it in time? What we're really worried about is if you don't make it back to LA in time to shoot with us, and
Or
you're
if you
gonna
have a
miss-
leather thong.
or whether leather thong. So I managed to talk the producer into letting me drive home, but it was like pulling teeth.
Okay.
And so we start on the road, and we go and we get home. And after a couple days of being home, I suppose we got there on a Friday, and on Sunday we get a phone call saying, Jake, you don't have to show up on Monday morning at Sony. There's been some delays. And so I said, really, what's going on? They said, we don't know. We can't really talk about it right now, but you don't plan on working this week. I said, really? I guess I'm going to make it in time. And then the rest of the story is,
Yeah, we all were boarding a flight, and then somebody on the plane. I don't remember. I don't know who it was.
our plane.
It was our plane. No, I know it was somebody on our show.
Yeah, but I'm
That
just letting them
was
know
joke-
like it wasn't
It-
like just the air.
we had a chartered plane. Like it was all the cast and crew that was being shuttled from Kadoga, South Dakota,
Yeah.
to L.A. And some wise guy said the B word that you don't say on a plane. You guys know what the B
Bomb.
word is? Yeah, it says, like, oh, I got a bomb or something like that. And that was it. And then we all had to deplane, and we had to stay in South Dakota for another night or two until they could get us another plane to take us home, because this wise guy, said that, and you don't mess around.
So the
with that word.
Do you know the whole story with Alan and the captain and the whole ego trip?
No, tell us.
you were
I
not
want to
there?
hear
Not
it. No.
now.
We can tell it.
Alan?
You guys don't want to hear that now, do
Do you want to hear it? Yeah, you want to hear about the Allen Eagle? I'd like to hear about it. Do you know about it? Is it
Yeah,
it's
wake
not
me
worth
up when
talking-
it's over.
Oh, okay.
All right, I have enough time. I'll turn it over to a couple of audience questions. Raise your hand if you have a question. Does anybody have a question out there?
Questions?
Someone, come on. There's someone. John Peck's got
Oh,
a
here we
question
go.
right there. If it's about a thong, don't ask it. But Cisco is the thong song. Yes.
That thong, the thong, 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 the thong.
How long all of you have seen it, or if you've thought about this, how people talk about Star Trek, how in the 60s, communicator, how there's flip phones, big technology involved. Have you thought about that with Starship Troopers, how you have things like animated videos, just like cartoon speed immediately sent, like an iPad, and how people do that now, like back in 97, this really is terrific, this is fantastic, things like that, and just like how there's like webcams, just all that technology. I'm just curious if you thought about that, how, the impact.
I thought about it more when I was a kid watching the Jetsons. And now I'm like, wow, we have FaceTime. I remember thinking when I was like as far as like sci-fi goes, I'm like, oh my God, that'd be so cool. Could you imagine like you're on the phone with somebody, you could actually see them? That would be so cool. Oh my God. And now I'm like, I'm not camera ready. I'm not putting my video on. Get out of here.
Taking a shower, the phone rings, it's a little different.
Yeah, you can't answer the phone when like you're in the bathroom or something like that. That'd be weird.
Michael had said before that he'd only seen the movie once. Do you guys do you watch your movies more than
Every
once?
single day,
If it's
all
on
day.
TBS, you
No.
just constantly are watching Starship Troopers,
No.
or do you revisit it to check it out, or like the 25th anniversary was last year, stuff like that come up in your head and go, I want to take a look at this.
I personally have not seen the movie in well over 20 years.
Did you
Okay.
go to the 15-year anniversary?
I did. Oh no, sorry. I did the thing with you, and we had to watch it at FedCon.
Had to.
We watched it. Actually, okay, sorry. You're right. I forgot about that. We went to FedCon back in. When was that? Back in the Nixon administration. Like what the hell was that?
Yeah, it's been
That
a
was.
while.
It was no. I mean, it was a good 15 years ago.
Was it?
12? All right. Don't nickel and dime me. It's like it's.
No, I don't.
It was
What's
more than
97
more
plus
than
15? I don't know.
2012. 2012.
Okay. Sounds fair.
Is that right? Yeah? Okay.
Sounds
yeah,
right.
2012. Okay. So 2012 we went to FedCon, and one of the things it was like a 3 or 4 day convention. They were playing Starship Troopers, and they thought it would be fun to have the Starship Troopers cast be on stage with the film playing, and then we had our mics, and we could watch it with the audience, and we could comment on it while we were watching it. That's right, which was kind of cool. I mean, the audience loved it. Yeah. So that was the last time I saw it.
Okay. Any other
Yeah,
questions?
So I stand corrected.
Is that Chucky? Are you Chucky? Oh, Chucky, go for it. Hello,
Hi, Chucky.
Who's the voice of Chucky? Is that Brad Dourif?
Are you aware of the very on-the-nose kind of satire that the recent game Helldivers 2 takes at Starship Troopers? And if so, what are your respective thoughts on it?
I have absolutely no thoughts at all about it.
I've heard that Helldivers it's very close to Starship Troopers, but I haven't played the game. I haven't seen it. I've seen a couple of little clips, but not enough to be able to answer your question with any kind of. Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say it takes it word for word, but it's very stylistically similar. It'll take the PSAs from Starship Troopers and kind of that level of satire, and they
Right.
very much have some fun with it, and kind of. I don't know so much as if it's more like satire or loving
Look, we're actors. We have very little say in any of that shit. I'm in a drugstore a few years ago, right in the middle of I had cancer for 5 years, and about 2 years into it, I was starting to get a little bit in a remittance, and I'm in the drugstore getting my $600,000 medications and stuff. My wife comes up to me and she says, "How are you feeling about yourself?" And I went, "I'm feeling pretty good." think. She goes, you sure your self-esteem's good today? I said, yeah, it looks like I'm going to live. She goes, look, and she pulled out one of those little bobblehead fucking dolls, the Razik one, you know? And I looked at it and she said, I hope you're feeling good about yourself because look. And so I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen a fucking, pardon my language, I'm pissed off about this. I've never seen a penny or been asked for my advice or input on any of that. We're basically a commodity. We sign off on certain stuff. A lot of product orientation we have no say in. That is all owned by the studio or the distribution company. And and it's not right. Our unions have tried to do things over the years about that. It can be vicious. If a producing or a distribution company doesn't like an actor or a character, they can totally sabotage their career with that stuff. Some actors are pains in the ass and should have their careers sabotaged.
Stop talking about me.
Not any of these here. Not that I would say that in public. But you know what I'm saying? So we don't really, a lot of that stuff we have no say in at all. You know, and as far as who knows what's gone on in the back rooms, excuse me, Diet Pepsi. I usually don't drink it, but I love caffeine. But I'm sure there was a decision made on that and some money changed hands somewhere for those games to be able to share materials on that. You know, Ron Shushet and some of those guys made a deal. Because that intellectual property is owned by more than just the studio. Because I think Ron signed a whole bunch of deals before that on what he owned and what he didn't own as far as the characters and storylines. So, you know, very intelligent question, though, for a man wearing a fucked up red wig. and that's Brad Dourif, right? Brad Dourif is the voice of Chucky, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Brilliant actor. Made a lot of money off Chucky.
I think we got time for one more question. I saw your hand before, so go for it.
You asked me that already. I'm not going to let these guys answer because you know my answer.
What's the question?
What's the craziest thing you saw on set while filming?
Oh, so much. I saw Paul Verhoeven without his pants.
Oh, yeah.
No, is it true? Yeah, he filmed the scene in the shower without, he got undressed for that?
I walked by
Yeah,
and
but he wasn't in the shower. You walked by and wait, what? You were spying on the shower scene?
No, it was another.
You were.
No, there's
Ratchet
another.
wasn't in the
fuck
shower.
off. No,
you
there's
weren't there.
Tom over here.
I am not interested in seeing your androgynous body. Look at. I saw the film. Come on.
Wow. Wow.
No, because that's the way the scene was played. Oh, we're going to get our ass in the air here. Paul was in a scene.
Keep talking.
Paul was in a scene where I don't know what he was doing, but I walked by the set and he had on that blue sweater of his and a pair of shoes and no pants. And I was surprised at how well endowed he was. You know what I mean? I sort of went, huh? And he went, you're not supposed to be here. And I went,
Yeah, because it was the shower scene and he didn't belong there. But it's interesting now to know that you
it was
were
actually in the
there.
production offices. It was in the production office.
He was making
He
sure
was-
you were androgynous.
He was. What do you mean he didn't have pants on in the production office? Was he getting ready for his shower
I have
scene
no
like
idea.
that?
I saw
What's
Paul
hap-
Verhoeven with no
Who
pants
was he
on.
casting?
You asked me what was the weirdest fucking thing I saw on Starship Troopers.
Hey, Jake-
Paul I'm not
This is
responsible for Paul not having his pants on.
Well,
want me to give a whole
maybe
fucking
you
trip.
were.
I don't think it could get weirder,
you
but maybe
were.
Jake Busey, was there something
Maybe
particularly
Jake
weird that
Busey
you saw
was.
that happened?
I apologize for that. Cindy.
Oh man, it was a military film. It was high and tight. We were solid production.
You know, it was weird in talking about the shower scene, since we're
I
there.
don't remember anything weird.
You
Or
don't,
seeing-
well,
Or seeing Jake play this fiddle. Now that's pretty amazing.
the fiddle that Jake was wearing in the shower scene was actually probably one of the next to weirdest things that I saw next to Paul and Yost Vacano naked. Was you and Casper naked?
Yeah, I made a little trip to the fun store.
So when everybody's getting finally after we see Paul and Yost Vacano was our a DP, our director of photography, and Paul checked with Yost to make sure that it was okay to drop
And
shower right
Yost
there.
was probably 79.
And yeah, so yeah, exactly. So it was like in his
Talented man,
60s. Yes, very talented. And so they agree, they drop it, and then it's like, okay, well, now I guess we got to do it because they just did this.
Here's a question. Maybe it's me, but seeing a woman naked for me is not shocking. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, you know, it's like, usually it's like, oh, you know, because, but seeing another man naked for me
It's a party.
is shocking. Do you know what I mean? So like, whoa, cover that up. You know? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I think we're so male-oriented in our society to objectify women, where we see women naked and we basically have an acceptance level. But when you see men naked, it's kind of like, that's
that
what he's
away.
got.
Which
You know,
brings-
it's like-
Which
or-
brings me
do you
back
know-
to
do you understand
seeing
what I'm saying?
these
There's-
guys naked. Well, now we're going
You
to
are
just
never
bring-
going to see me naked.
Come on.
No,
What if
no,
we
no.
say? What if we ask nicely?
You have
What if we ask really
too
nicely?
many
With
surgeries.
sugar?
What?
With sugar on top? If we ask? No, so anyway, so getting back to Jake and Casper. So once the nakedness was done and we were supposed to feel, more comfortable about it because we just saw the two grown men drop, we still weren't. But Jake and Casper were. And why were they more comfortable to just drop their towel? Well, why don't you tell us what you done and did?
Well, we were ourselves well endowed.
Yeah.
That particular
Well,
day.
both of them wearing like
Extendo.
extendo penises. They brought the Dirk Diggler of penises to cover. So they dropped the trowel and they both have like rubber bands, like holding it on like a nose.
No, it was just it was a slip
It's like
on.
15 inches long.
They were knee bangers. Yeah.
Cyrano de Bergerac.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
pretty funny, and so that also broke more ice right there. So it was just a day that was just a fun-filled day. Penises in your face. Hey.
I think the most embarrassing moment though was so you have the shock and awe of Paul and Yost dropping their pants and everyone, that's the big moment. Oh my God. Everyone laughs
But
it
you
off.
guys topped it.
They walked away. Well, and then we had the next moment, which was everybody getting naked and we're all puritanical
Masks
Americans
off.
and all this. So there's that big moment. And then there's the third, which is everybody realizing that we've got these slide-on hang-downs. And so what we both looked at each other and realized is that we had dug a big hole for ourselves. Because there's your 1, 2, 3, but we dug a hole in the sense that, well, now Paul says, well, come on, we're going to film this, you have to take that off. So there's a little bit of a lackluster anticlimactic moment there when the big 15 goes back to normal and everyone's like, oh yeah, you guys are something else, aren't you? Yeah.
Reap what you sow.
Yeah, well, no, we got a good dose of that,
We all got a good dose
our
of
own
it.
medicine, Yeah. It was fun. It was a fun day. And the great thing about it is the showers were truly warm or hot, whatever, It
Nick was
wasn't,
working he was wafting in all the smoke to make it look. They couldn't get too hot, the water, because then you steam up the camera lens.
oh, that's right.
So it was it wasn't really warm.
Lukewarm.
It was kind of like, just
It
barely.
wasn't cold.
It wasn't cold, no.
Do you know what I
So
like
which
about
is
that?
good.
Do you know what I like about that sequence when I saw
Reasons.
it? Is that Paul was successful in creating an androgynous situation where it was not sexually objectified in any way. He really did stay true to what he wanted with that film, was the equality
There
through
were
the
no,
sexes.
you mean because there was no slow-mo, like
There was,
lathering,
there was no,
soaping?
pardon,
He's
there
here
was
for a
no
girl.
titillation, there was none of that stuff. It was meant to be a practical experience of equality among the sexes. I
mean,
thought it was
there's no
very
titillation.
successful, He didn't want it to be anything other than violence and politics, which is pretty kind of
It
cool.
always shocks me when people come up and say, oh, I love that movie you were in, Starship Troopers. Oh, yeah, and the shower scene. I'm like, There was nothing erotic about the shower scene. It was just people talking about they wish they were a farmer or they
I
wanted
know, but
to
a lot
be
of the
cop.
guys that saw it were like 15 at the time. And they're like,
Right.
boobs!
Saw your tits.
You know, boobs!
Right.
My brother at the time was 14 years old. And
Oh,
his
well.
and his friends were going to school and they knew that his older sister was an actor. I saw your sister's boobs! It was the worst for him. It was the worst. I saw her
That is too
boobs.
funny.
Oh, jeez.
All right, I think we're running over, so before I get yelled at, I want to say thank you to everybody here.
Oh, thank you.
Jake Busey, Dina Meyer, Michael Ironside.
Thank you, guys.
If you have not recently watched Starship Troopers, which obviously they say they haven't, you guys should all check it out because it is a great movie. I watched it last night. It holds up, and it's a lot of fun, and yeah, it's a great time. So thank you all for coming to this panel. Thank you for coming to CT Horrorfest. Thank you.
Come to our tables. Come buy some autographs, merchandise.
Get some
anything.
merch, get some good stuff. Absolutely.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!